Parasite problems. So this tank's had a few issues. I thought it was flukes, and I think it probably was. So we've treated for flukes for 6 weeks. But there's something else, and I think it's worms. So this guy here, you can see there, what's coming out of him doesn't look so good. But who knows what that is. He's eating a lot. He's not very fat. Look, he looks quite thin compared to this guy. He's chunky. He's scrawny. And that there might give us some clues. So, what we're going to do, we're going to try and get that and stick it under a microscope and see if there is something else in here. They finished the fluke treatment. There's no sign of any flicking or fluking. There's no gilt issues. They're all breathing slowly. But there is something else going on, and I think that might be a clue. So we're going to wait, and we're going to try and get that. So we know it came from him. Some of it's white, some of it's not. But he's been eating for a good few weeks, so it can't be that he's not eating. That's what's causing the problem. So let's see. We'll find out in a minute, hopefully, if we can get that before anything else happens to it. And we will see what that looks like under a microscope, and if that tells us anything at all. Watch this space.
So here's that slide under the microscope. Now my microscope skills are not very good, but you can see some stuff moving about. The general swirl is just the fluid moving, but there's wiggly things. And the problem now is working out what they are. So with the help of social media, I've shared this to a few people that have been really helpful. And they seem fairly confident that this is something called spironucleus. And if you Google that, that causes hole in the head. That also causes the white stringy poops. I think it's similar to hexameter, but I'm not sure. And it's now just a question of working out what the best drug is to kill that. So if you look up there in the top right portion, there's that small wiggling blob, scientific term, that apparently is the spironucleus. Now, most fish have these. In fact, all fish have parasites. All fish have bacteria. If they're weakened, it starts to affect them. If they're not weakened, it doesn't. And that explains why some fish look good in that tank and 2 or 3 don't. And the 2 or 3 that don't are the stressed ones that are bullied, that succumb to these parasites. So let's get the parasites. And we'll have a quick run through of what is the best treatment, I think, for some of these in a minute.
So I think we found the problem, or one problem. But looking at this tank, just really quick, these fish are in the same tank as the other fish. But these fish are all fairly confident. They're all eating really well. They're not showing any problems. So the check seems to be is always look at what's coming out of your fish, which is a bit gross, but it's worth it. So they're all behaving normally. I'm not going to treat this whole tank because I reckon they've probably all got it, but they're all in a place where they can deal with it and it doesn't affect them. So they're fluke free now, I think. There's going to be parasites in every fish tank. It's just keeping the parasites to a level where your fish aren't affected and keeping the fish stress-free and healthy enough that they can live with the parasites, I think. The ones that get bullied, the ones that don't eat, the ones that are shy, are the ones that get the lurgy and get taken down by it. I'm a little bit worried about him because he hides a bit. So we'll keep an eye on him. We'll keep an eye that make sure he's still eating and there's nothing odd coming out of him and he's not getting bullied too much. The ones with showing signs and symptoms and struggling have been moved to another tank, and I'll treat those and see if we can fix it. So there's tons of ways to treat them. There's tons of medicines. Picking the right one is the trick, and here's a load here. You've got fluke stuff, wormer stuff. There's standard stuff like methylene blue. There's the targeted stuff. It seems to me it's either levamisole, flubendazole, metronidazole, which we can't get, and that's the problem because apparently metronidazole will sort out the spironucleus. However, octazine, funnily enough, treats hole in the head, and that's caused by spironucleus, I think. Don't quote me on any of this stuff because I'm still learning, but this contains dimetronidazole. I'm no scientist, sounds similar. I've got nothing else to try, so we're going to try octazin on those fish that are struggling with what we think is spironucleus. One of them has signs of hole in the head. It makes sense to me that that's possibly the problem. So what have I got to lose? I've put them in a quarantine tank. We're going to give it a go with octazin. It's the only medicine on here that says to treat for 3 days in a row. I don't think the instructions on some of these medicines are very good. You can't treat just once if you want to sort out parasites. The treatments don't affect the eggs of the parasites, so when the eggs hatch, the parasite comes back and you have to buy more meds. So not suggesting anything there, but I think that's not very nice. So octazin it is, because it's all I've got. Haven't got metronidazole because I can't get it. That treats hole in the head. Hole in the head's caused by spironucleus. So is fluffy white poop. Fingers crossed, let's see what happens. Meanwhile, these guys seem happy. They're all eating. They've been treated with praziquantel 6 times now, once a week, 3 at double dose. There can't possibly be a fluke in this tank, but there might still be, I don't know. But I think the message is keep them stress free, keep them healthy. There'll always be some parasites. They have to learn to live with it. And that good diet, good water quality, a clean tank keeps the parasites to a low level. The UV I'm sure helps too. And their immune system takes care of the rest. Health check your fish, and then you know whether you need to act. If they stop eating, if they start hiding, we're looking at you over there. We'll keep an eye on him because he's nice fish and I don't want to lose that one. But he's been doing all right. He's eating. Just keep an eye on them. If they start breathing fast, that's a sign. If they start flicking and flashing, that's another sign. If what's coming out of them isn't a nice brown healthy shape, you've got some kind of a problem. And I cannot recommend enough, even if you don't know what you're doing, is to treat yourself to a cheap microscope, because that opens your eyes to what's going on. So I think these dudes are good. They're getting sand back in there soon. We're going to have a few more plants come back. I think we're in a good place. I've just got 3 fish who are struggling to deal with the parasites, so they're going to get some help, and that is going to come in the shape of octazin at the moment, because we can't get metronidazole. So here's the hospital tank. You can see there's a ram, sunken stomach, stuff coming out of him that doesn't look quite right. He's eating but spitting the food out, so I'm thinking he's got the bug, or the bug's got the better of him. Here's the discus that was in the video previously with the white stuff coming out of him. He's eating a lot. He's swimming around quite nicely, but it's obviously starting to get on top of him too. And we've got a guy over here which you probably can't see. Some signs of hole in the head there. He's skinny, he needs to eat, he's gone dark, he's not happy. I think it's also got the better of him too. Now this fish was always bottom of the pecking order, always got picked on, never did well, and then I guess the parasites take over when they get to that stage and they can't kind of fight them off. So let's see what we can do. I think they've had flukes and they've had this internal parasite thing at the same time. So these 3 fish, worried I've caught it too late, but I'll do what I can to help them. And that's the key message, is get it early. As soon as you see any signs, find out what it is, get them out the main tank and get them treated. But it's seeming to click now. Keep them stress free, keep them clean, feed them well. They'll stay on top of the parasites unless the parasites get too bad. So you've got to help them out as much as you can by reducing the parasites, again, keeping them clean, keeping them strong with good food. If it starts to get on top of them, then you get the medicines out and try and help them along. But removing the stress is the main thing, and they'll sort the parasites out themselves as long as there's not too many. So not sure how to sum that up for the best. Basically, look after them as well as you can, help them out when they need it. They shouldn't need help if they're healthy, but there's always one at the bottom of the pecking order who gets stressed, and that's when the parasites take over. So let's see if we can fix at least this one here. I think he's got a good chance. I'm a bit worried that these two might be past it. This one here, I'm pretty sure he is blind, and he has some kind of swim bladder thing going on. So again, it's the fish you buy as well. Look how big his eyes are, how much he's grown. Same with that one. So they may be too far gone, but we will do everything we can. And hopefully this guy you'll see back in the main tank as soon as possible. Sorry for these reflections, but that's just where this tank is. So yeah, they're currently on a slightly elevated dose of octazine, and they're at 32 degrees. They'll have that for 3 days. Then we'll feed them and see what happens. And hopefully also the little ram down here, who I think has the same problem, we'll see if he can get better too. Fingers crossed for these lot. All the other fish are doing really well in the other tank. That's my tips